Hi guys, it's Bill again here at the Dayton Hamvention 2019 with the ICQ Podcast team, and I'm here with the actual other podcast I actually listen to. It's Linux and the Ham Shack guys. I'll let everyone introduce themselves here.
My name is Russ. I'm K5TUX.
I'm Bill, NE4RD.
And I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And if you ever watched our podcast, I just did it in the wrong order, so they're all messed up.
Right.
So,
Come on, we're flexible.
yeah, that's right.
We are? Oh.
No.
So, for the listeners that aren't aware of you guys' great podcast, you want to give us a brief overview of the kinds of topics you guys talk about?
I think you're talking about another podcast, but on our podcast, he said the word great. I don't know. I don't hear that much. So, sure, we talk about Linux, we talk about open source, amateur radio, and anything that crosses any of those boundaries. And we also talk about things that you wouldn't think we would talk about, like Microsoft and Mac OS and Android and all of those things, because while we would prefer that everyone use Linux and bath and bathe in the water that is Linux and all of its greatness, we realize that not everybody can or will do that. So we try to explore every option for everybody to get them into the amateur radio hobby or to explore technology or computing, and do it any way that's comfortable and feasible. And if they feel like experimenting, we'll certainly guide them on a path towards our chosen land.
All right, thank you. Now, thing that I remember you guys do often is you actually review various Linux distributions as to how appropriate they are for ham radio shack use. Do you care to talk about how you formulate that one, Bill?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we do what we call an LHS readiness score for Linux distros. And what we do is we try to make it the barrier to entry to using the Linux distro, whether it's easy to install, whether it's easy to find ham radio software, and get it up and running, not just in a VM like most people would start out with if you're experimenting with a system, but with real hardware. So I go through and I do a lot of distro hopping myself, and that's a fun pastime is to try different distros and see how they run. And we definitely try to figure out what is the best for people to use and how easy it is to get them on there with very little effort, because we all know that if it's hard to do something, nobody's going to try it. And that's why we come here to the Hamvention and we bring a distro with us every time that we feel is bulletproof enough that you can put it in your computer and run it. We have links to the distros that we build on our website that people can just download. It is all free software. There's nothing, we're not selling anything. And if we like it enough, and it becomes something that we'll build a spin of that already has all the software you need to try out ham radio software on Linux. So I think it's a great program that we've been doing. We started about 1.5 years, 2 years ago doing that thing. And so far it's kind of built the distribution that we actually have. Is that, hey, we're talking about this stuff now, let's build it and let's get it out there, and so people can have that same ease of getting into using that type of system.
All right, that's great. That's really handy to get some people started that way, at least give them a good suggestion. Now, you break your show up into 3 various chunks when you release it. You do a deep dive episode, you do a short topic, and you do the Weekender. Do you want to discuss about what the Weekender is?
Yeah, our Weekender actually covers ham fests that are going on around the world, whether it's in the U.S. or, wherever. And then we have the hedonism aspect of it, where I talk about recipes, Russ talks about whiskey, Bill usually talks about beer or wine. So it's just, it's the fun aspect of the podcast. So
I have something to add to that. Basically, what the Weekender is the podcast I would prefer to do than the one I actually do. That's what the Weekender is. So all of the things that are fun, like if you listen to music and you want to hear like some really great Creative Commons music, or if you really want to hammer down on some good whiskey or a great dark lager or something like that, all of the things that interest all human beings.
You meant to say an IPA, right?
No, I meant to say a dark lager.
Okay.
Friends don't let friends drink IPAs.
I wish we could get that through to him, but that's. So the Weekender is just for fun. We do have amateur radio and open source topics in there, because we have to try and keep it sort of relevant. But if you just want a good old time every other week, we talk about all the things we really want to talk about. So.
Very good. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience on how to find you, or other things you might want to discuss to get them to con them into listening?
Sure, we can do that. The easiest way to find out about us is just to Google Linux in the Ham Shack, because I think we're pretty much at the top of the SEO there. So, but lhspodcast.info is where you'll find us. Not .com, not .net, not any of those well-recognizable ones. We chose info because it's cheap. And so...
He's honest.
So that's where you find us, lhspodcast.info. It has links to everything. It has all of our show content, our show notes. We have download links to the distributions that we provide, and links to torrents of all our back episodes and distros as well. And if we're going to be doing anything, if there's an event coming up, or if there's something we're trying to promote or make well known, it'll all be there. So it's kind of a clearinghouse for anything you ever want to know about Linux in the Ham Shack.
Yeah, we announce episode recordings on our Twitter account at LHS Podcast, and also on our Facebook page, which is Linux in the Ham Shack, and probably LHS Podcast as well.
I believe it's LHS Podcast would be the URL.
Yeah, it would be the URL, so you can find us.
Part of the URL, because it's a Facebook URL, and we don't know how they do things.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely find us on social media.
Facebook, they collect all your info.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cheryl's in charge of the Facebook aspect, so
Can I very quickly?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm off camera, Bill. No, I want you to do this, but
Okay.
we're a Hamvention. I remember Cheryl always has a recipe. Do we have a Hamvention recipe?
Actually, no, we do not have a Hamvention recipe, but my next recipe will actually be from some of the recipes that Hutch, K9KJN, that owns Zydeco's in Mooresville, Indiana. He actually gave me his whole recipe book the other night, so I'm going to share some of those over the next few podcasts.
And we'd like to indicate here that he did give us permission to give away some of his recipes.
Like,
we're not just doing this.
Are open source.
That's
Share
right.
them.
He said they were open source, and he provided them. He provides them on a disc, in PDF format. So we're not like stealing anything from him, but there'll be a good couple of Cajun recipes coming up. So if you're into that, check it out.
That's great. Finally, our friend Edmund, who's actually over at the special event station, loves special events. Do you care to brief our listeners on your upcoming special event that you're helping with the Boy Scouts?
Sure, yeah. We have the World Jamboree coming up in 2019. It's July 22nd through August 2nd, if I'm correct. And it'll be at the Summit Bechtel Reserve. We're going to be on pretty much all bands, 80 meters up through satellite. We're sponsored obviously by ICOM, JK Antennas, MFJ Enterprises, DX Engineering. They're tremendous in making the effort of getting these scouts on the air. And we're going to be operating as NA1WJ, North America 1, first World Jamboree. And a lot of people asked us about that because, there's been World Jamborees in the U.S. before, but this is the first time it's been hosted by the three contingents of the Boy Scouts of America, the Scouts of Canada, and the Scouts of Mexico. So all three contingents are actually hosting this, and that's why it's really an important event in this timeline, because it's the first time it's ever happened that all three have brought themselves together and created this event here at the great property of the Bechtel Reserve. So yeah, we're going to have a demonstration station there for the scouts to come through. We're hoping to at least hit what we hit at the National Jamboree 2 years ago at 3,000 scouts plus. That would be excellent. We're also going to have amateur radio direction finding there over in the orienteering section. We're going to be doing some balloon launches, so we'll have those up on APRS. I'm pretty sure they'll be under the NA1WJ call sign. If not, they'll be under K2BSA. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting summer. I'm saving all my vacation time so I can go to it. And yes, we had to pay to go. So, but yeah, it's gonna be really fun. And over at the K2BSA booth, they got a lot of swag from ICOM with the information about the event. And of course, you can find information on our website at k2bsa.net.
All right.
I would like to say that I want to thank Bill for coming on to the show about 3 years ago or whenever it was, when we had to transition out of a previous co-host. We only realized a few episodes later that he was just doing it to become another shill for the K2BSA. So,
I need another outlet.
because he manages to slip it in about in every episode. So if you don't like the Boy Scouts or don't appreciate them, you might want to tune out. But it's okay.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate your guys' time. I appreciate you telling us about the special event coming up, and we'll hopefully hear everyone later. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.